Check, check. Rightio, so we've got Sarabi here. Sarabi, come! Free! Got Sarabi here, and essentially we're just going to keep going with our loose lead walking and some recalls as well. It's challenging to do both at the same time because obviously when we're doing a loose lead walk, contextually the dog needs to be in that space. And if we're reinforcing that enough, the dog actually will stay in that space a lot. So it's challenging to do recalls, obviously, if the dog's there. But we can practice. She's definitely not perfect yet, so we've got lots of ability to distract her in this environment. Not a whole lot going on, but it's still obviously, we have been training out here, so there is food. So anyway, so far you've been shown sort of, you say her name, get that reflexive response, say the recall command, which is come. When she comes back to you, lure her into a front sit or lure her into a side sit, whichever you desire. Typically we start off with a front sit. Pretty sure that's what Sheldon's explained to you as well. So yeah, lure back into a front sit. Once she's sat for a second or two, free, give the food. We can mark yes on the way back, okay? We can give her an indication what she's doing is correct and keep doing it, right? Makes sense, right? If she's coming back to us and we say yes, likelihood is she's gonna keep coming, okay? So with this as well, we've got a long line on her today because obviously doing it on a 6-foot lead is pretty impractical, okay, long term. It's great to start the behavior, but long term we need to be practicing at greater distances and less engagement, okay? We've got this lead, it is a 5-meter lead, I think. We have the live end, okay, so from your hand to the dog is the live end. It's active, okay, or active end of the lead. And we've got the dead end of the lead, which is from our hand to the tail. That end of the lead can touch the ground, do whatever we want. Ideally, this end of the lead doesn't touch the ground. We can let it flow out of our hands like this, clamp, apply the pressure, but then when she comes back, we can also, you'll notice I haven't commanded, but we can also regather that lead. We have access to the dog to put them in a sit, free, okay, like that. We don't necessarily have to gather the lead on a actual rep, okay? If you can, fantastic, it takes a lot of coordination, okay? But also the other thing is it's more important that you keep that pressure on the dog to come back than try and practice good lead management, okay? So, but when I say good lead management, I mean you want this end of the lead to be well managed. Don't worry about this end of the lead, okay? Dead end can do whatever. Live end needs to be well managed, okay? So again, live end shouldn't touch the ground. She could get distracted, okay? No, she's not gonna fall for that one. Most dogs do, but we're just gonna let her get distracted. Maybe if we kick this rock away. Nope. Gee, she's a tough cookie. She'll get distracted though, they always do. And yeah, so we just keep walking around. We can mark and reinforce if the dog is in the right walking position as well, but obviously creates a challenge if we're doing recall practice where the dog's always there, so. All right. Sarabi, come! Oh. Free! Poor management of food on that rep. I've got a little bit left. I'm gonna just tip it straight in there because it's hard to get out of the plastic bag when there's not much in there. Rightio. But again, it wasn't that bad a rep, okay? It was still a pretty solid rep in the long term, but, and every rep counts, right? Even a bad rep is a rep. Ideally, we're not failing on the rep, so we always want the lead on. Sarabi, come! So as she gets about here, free! We want to get that food. So once we get about a meter of lead left, we want to get that food and lure her into the sit. Or, alternatively, Sarabi, come! Whoop. Sit. Free! We can use that leash pressure as well. Hopefully that was in shot. I'll do it again in case it wasn't. Sarabi, come! So we bring her in, gather her in, sit, leash pressure up, bum hits the ground, up, bum hits the ground, leash pressure comes off, free! Ideally we want to also release when that dog is engaged and looking at us, but I wanted to release her without her breaking, okay, as well. So mix it up. Ideally, if we can, the dog's looking at us, we want to release at that point, but it's definitely better to release when the dog's not looking at us than for the dog to break that, okay? If she does break, like you might have seen in that rep, we just reapply that leash pressure. You can recommand, or you just reapply that leash pressure. There is no pressure on this either. It is free flowing, and she should actually come back off that pressure, okay? I'm not going to recall it because I don't care at this moment. I'm trying to explain something, but I've lost my train of thought anyway. Oh yeah, so pressure into the sit, and then yeah. So I'd much prefer to if she does look at us and then she looks away, I would much prefer to release the dog and reinforce it soonish than to wait and risk her breaking, okay? So we want the reps to be solid. And yes, ideal picture is, there's a dog over there, so she's interested. Ideal picture is that she is making eye contact, but if she's not, it's better to release her than to have her break, okay? Sarabi, come! Sit! Ah! Ah! She's actually preempting the reward. Ah! Free! So what I want to do is not actually have a loaded hand before I release, okay? So that was a failure on my behalf. Well, not really a failure, but you know, you got to find out these things. So now I know she is at the level where I don't need to have the hand loaded. I can just release and then get the food and do luring sort of style reinforcement afterwards, okay? So one other thing to mention is also name game, okay? So we load the name the same way that we load that yes marker. So essentially just say the word and then deliver the food, okay? And by doing that, obviously creating that positive association to the dog's name, they're gonna, same thing with the yes marker, they're gonna have that reflexive response. So when they hear their name, it's a good way to see if your dog can actually hear you as well, like whether they're listening, I guess you could say. But it is, because it's a reflexive response where the dog has no choice but to, you know, their brain takes over their body and they just look, right? It's a good way to go, rightio, she can hear me, now I can recall her, okay? So again, very important. Sarabi, come! Free! Great rep that. So like, again, I say her name, she looks at me, I say come, and then she comes in, we lure into the sit, and or we can use that pressure as well, okay? Another thing that we can do, there's a dog up behind the camera there, so hopefully she'll get distracted that way. Another thing we can do is start to add pressure onto this, okay? So what that will look like is name, recall, then pop, okay? And you want about a 2-second gap between each of them, okay? And she wants to be coming back towards you before you add that pressure on top. That pressure taps into that dog's sort of escape avoidance sort of mechanisms where they want to try and beat that pressure, okay? And it becomes a bit of a game for them, especially for drivey dogs. Like, oh, I'm going to beat this time, okay? So what that looks like, I'll try and do it back this way because then we can actually see. Oh, now she's coming in anyway. We'll see if she can get distracted. It's obviously challenging when they do have a bit of value in the handler. Sarabi, come! So give that pop, bring her in, sit, free! Okay, releasing before she can break, making eye contact ideally, and make a bit of game out of that, delivering that food. Okay, one more rep. Again, ideally you want that lead to be off the ground, but if she's needs it to get, don't eat that dirt. Oh, that was a good opportunity, but didn't sees it. Someone working in the shed. See if we can get her distracted. Sarabi, come. Sit. Free. And again, like in that rep there, you would have seen I said her name. She did sort of ignore me a little bit, but I did see a flicker of like acknowledgement. So therefore I recalled her. Okay, I knew she could hear me in that circumstance. I recalled her. She ignored me, so I added that pressure in the pop. If you guys can practice this, every day, that it's fantastic. Very important skill, obviously. Don't take the lead off yet. We need the lead at least for another couple of months. Get the reps in, do the practice. She'll get really rock solid, and then we can start experimenting. But yeah, keep her up. She's doing really well. Yeah, pretty happy. Hey, sweetheart, you're doing good.